Now on WCCO 4 News, neighbors afraid of their neighbors. Why? Too many level 3 sex offenders moving in. Will your annual trip to a vehicle emissions test site be a thing of the past? WCCO 4 News starts right now.
With clear, accurate coverage. This is WCCO 4 News, the hometown team.
Hello, I'm Amelia Santinello.
And I'm Don Shelby. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. The idea of a sex offender living in your neighborhood is unsettling, perhaps even scary. So how would you feel about 2 or 3 of them or more moving in? Residents in the Jordan neighborhood of Minneapolis feel they're being invaded by level 3 sex offenders, the kind most likely to reoffend. WCCO's Bill Hudson is here with the details. Bill.
Well, Don, we need to make one point very clear. Level 3 sex offenders can live just about anywhere they want. They've served their prison time, and the state must set them free. 4 level 3 offenders are now causing an uproar in one North Minneapolis community.
This isn't a toxic waste site, although it feels like it right about now.
The toxic waste isn't chemical, say residents, it's human. 4 level 3 sex offenders are heading to the Jordan neighborhood of Minneapolis. 2 near 27th and Morgan, 2 others just a few blocks away, near 26th and Humboldt.
I don't want them, personally.
I'll have to sit and lock my door all the time now.
If they want me, let them come out. I'll meet them.
Crime is a fact of life in this community, but hard work is changing that. There are more police patrols and more warnings to people with crime on their minds.
I won't give up. They're not going to run me out.
Thursday night, Jordan residents will meet with police and prison officials to voice their concerns.
You know, how many more are they going to bring into this area?
And with 2 offenders living just 2 blocks from this soon-to-be school, residents only half joke about how far they'll go for protection.
Arm all of our seniors and kids with pepper spray. You know, give the rest of us aluminum bats. Give us a chance here. You know, this is where we live. These are our homes.
Corrections officials could not appear on camera, but stressed that they can't tell level 3 offenders where to live. And over time, the percentage of sex offenders in each community should be about equal. Don?
All right, Bill. Thank you.
Sure.
Wednesday, residents in the Stewart Park area of South Minneapolis will be warned about level 3 sex offenders moving into that area. The notification meeting begins at 7 p.m. in the Stewart Park Multipurpose Room. The building is located at 2700 12th Avenue South.
This evening, investigators are on the scene of a murder in Waite Park. That's just outside of St. Cloud. Authorities say that a young female was found dead at 38 13th Avenue South. Authorities have one person in custody on unrelated charges, but say they are taking a close look at him in regard to the murder. We'll have more on the story tonight at 10 o'clock. Police are trying to find the person who shot a man to death this morning in a North Minneapolis street. It happened near 5th and Humboldt Avenues North, the neighborhood of several apartment buildings. The victim is in his mid-20s, and police say that more than one suspect fled the scene. This is the 4th homicide in Minneapolis this year so far. The 8-year-old boy injured in a knife accident last night in North Minneapolis is upgraded from critical to serious condition. Police say that the boy fell on the knife while he and another child were roughhousing in the kitchen.
If you think it is an inconvenience, just troublesome, and annoyance to get your car tested for harmful emissions every year, you'll be happy to hear a legislative committee is on your side. WCCO's Pat Kessler is live in his state capitol office to tell us what the committee decided today. Pat?
Don, the big question here at the Capitol is whether emissions testing actually lowers pollution from cars. Now, a House committee today said they don't think so. That's why it voted to eliminate the testing, those emissions testings, by July of the year 2000. Every time Paul Ryan starts his car, he's not sure whether he's polluting or not. Ryan's car has failed every emissions test since 1992. But even after paying to fix it every year, his car fails at one testing center, but passes at another.
The adjustments that you make to your vehicle last for a very short amount of time. And I think that they know that. The proponents of emissions testing, they know that. And they don't want us to know that.
6 years of testing frustration brought Paul Ryan to the Capitol. He saw a House committee vote to kill the vehicle testing program, despite warnings the state could lose federal aid.
If you get rid of this program, then you put your federal highway funds at risk. Now, what does that mean? I don't know what the ultimate dollar figure on this is, but in many other states, it could be hundreds of millions of dollars.
Supporters claim the testing program has removed hundreds of thousands of tons of pollutants from the air. But Ryan says credit should go to better cars and cleaner fuel, not a complicated testing bureaucracy.
I just want my tabs. That's all I want.
Now, back in 1995, the legislature did exempt cars that are 5 years old or newer. You must have this test done, of course, in order to get license tabs. And Don, there seems to be a growing movement here to eliminate this program altogether.
All right, Pat, thank you. Governor Ventura, by the way, supports eliminating the testing stations. And we have one more capital note. A Senate committee today gave preliminary approval to all-day kindergarten. Some 800 teachers support a study by a kindergarten task force. It says an all-day program benefits kids in reading skills and prepares them for first grade, and it allows them to build better friendships with their classmates. The so-called full program option could go into effect next fall.
Northwest Airlines once again faces a monopoly pricing lawsuit. A federal appeals court today ruled that a lower court was wrong to throw out a lawsuit filed by travelers. The plaintiffs claim that when Northwest merged with Republican Airlines back in 1986, it violated antitrust law and led to higher ticket prices. Well, if you're planning to drive to the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport tomorrow, leave some extra time. The next phase of a construction project started today, and drivers are being rerouted to general parking through a new entrance. Plus, Wednesdays are usually busy days anyway at the airport.
Former Attorney General Skip Humphrey has a new job. He's going to work as a consultant for Thunheim Centrizos, a public relations firm. Humphrey will help the firm with teen smoking, drug addiction, and consumer protection issues. Clover, the groundhog, performed her annual duty today. The resident groundhog at the Minnesota Zoo saw her shadow this morning. And as you know what that means, 6 more weeks of winter for us. However, Punxsutawney Phil, the senior Groundhog Day expert out east, did not see his shadow, so spring could or could not be close at hand.
Who do we listen to?
Well, I think the one.
Is he the
close
licensed? Is
enough to bite
Punxsutawney?
This one, the closest one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the end of the century is close at hand, and what does that mean for gravestones already carved? That story's coming up next at 6:10.
Well, Amelia, earlier today I did see my shadow, and I'm not sure what that means, but we'll ponder that and tell you about a winter weather smorgasbord. Snow, sleet, ice, rain. We'll put it into order coming up.
Thanks, Paul. At 6:20, a tearful press conference from a football great by the name of Walter Payton.
You're watching the Twin Cities top-rated newscast, WCCO 4 News, the hometown team.
Now, Don Shelby, Amelia Santinello, weather with Paul Douglas, and Mark Rosen on sports. You're watching WCCO 4 News, the hometown team.
We've heard volumes about Y2K and the year 2000 bug, but along with high-tech fears of a computer meltdown, there are some low-tech problems the new millennium brings.
And WCCO's Dennis Dota has one such example. Who would have thought of it?
Who'd have
It's so
thought?
obvious now.
It's not a grave concern, but it concerns our graves. You see, there used to be a practice of pre-carving headstones and then marking the year of death, 19 blank, in 332 days. That stone is outdated, and who wants to rush the inevitable just so your headstone's accurate?
Now there's a nightmare, a typo on my tombstone. Okay, graveyard graphics aren't something we really want to think about, but it won't be long before the years of our demise start with a 20. Even though husband Charles passed in 1954, wife Mahala's marker is non-committal, and that 19 is running out of time. Minneapolis Granite and Marble has been carving stone memorials since 1906, but owner Jeffrey Kibbins refuses to predate the expiration, because even without the year 2000 hitch, adding numbers may not look right.
Depending on the widths of each numeral, it throws everything off.
This isn't going to be a problem for most of us because 90% of all memorials are bought at the time of Jeffrey.
Most memorials are provided at need instead of pre-need.
As for the 19, pros can fill that with granite dust and epoxy, smooth it out, and re-engrave any century you want.
I sure can't see that. I mean, it's hidden very well.
I think in time you will see it because the the mixture of epoxy and granite won't wear the same as virgin stone.
So 400, 500 years from now,
yes, when we all get together,
we'll be confused about when they really passed.
The pre-carving trend, well, that may have begun eons ago, when hand carving was tedious and pre-cutting saved money.
The head of the Minnesota Funeral Directors Association says they do not expect this to be a huge problem, but you have to be careful what you etch in stone.
Dennis, does it make sense to pre-carve your stone anyway?
You know, actually, if you're the kind who doesn't want to burden your survivors with all the funeral details, yes. Plus, you can also choose the style, the design, the color, all that. For example, we saw this one engraved stone for a deer hunter today with a big heavenly buck standing guard. It's kind of touching.
Thank you, Dennis, for that report. Don?
That's at need, not pre-need. Right. It's time now to check in with Paul Douglas, who we need to tell us whether we're going to have 6 more weeks of winter or not.
We live in Minnesota, Don. The answer is yes.
Of course, it's always yes. Yeah.
It's for those other wimpier states where winter comes and goes, but we like our winters long and hardy. And yeah, of course winter's going to linger into March. Although, looking at the maps, it looks a little more March-like than February-like, at least for the next week to 10 days. Photojournalist Bob Hernandez up in Robbinsdale today, checking out the blue sky, and look at that, a gaggle of snowmen, snow people, snow kids. 38 the high today, a low 22. Our normal high now is 21 and on the rise for the first time in about, well, 6 months. No precipitation today, 35 and cloudy, some high clouds beginning to stream in right now. The wind chill 22, humidity 67%. Look at that, they're playing badminton. A southwest wind at 10 and the barometer 29.58 and steady. Snowmen, icemen out there on my yard skating to work this morning. We have that melting, freezing cycle that has been a problem all week long. During the day, temperatures shoot up into the 30s. The snow melts. We have these monster man-eating puddles, and then they refreeze at night with temperatures dipping into the teens and 20s. And I know this morning, certainly on our sidewalk, our driveway, just a sheet of ice, and that was repeated countless times all around the state. Again, the good news is, at least for your morning commute, temperatures aloft should be just warm enough for a mixed bag of sleet, rain, and snow tomorrow morning. I think it may change over to just plain old rain for a time, but surface temperatures, ground temperatures may be at or just below freezing early in the morning. So rush hour tomorrow morning may be tricky before that changeover and before temperatures finally rise above freezing. But look at this, no really bitter air anywhere around the nation. 47 Denver, 70 in Phoenix, 52 Atlanta, and there's no snow. I mean, you think our 7 inches is pathetic. Boston has 3, Buffalo has 1 inch of snow, no snow reported on the ground in Chicago or Des Moines, no significant snow in Indianapolis or Cleveland. Very unusual, second day of February, to have so little snow around the nation. Temperatures at this hour in the mid-30s. The weather map tomorrow shows that icy mix changing over to wet snow in the afternoon, but with temperatures in the mid-30s, just wet or slushy roads for the most part. Our forecast tonight, dry this evening, that icy mix by dawn. Give yourself extra time to get around tomorrow morning, 27 for a low. And then tomorrow, the icy mix, rain, freezing rain changes back to wet snow, 35 for a high, maybe a coating of slush. Isn't that pathetic? You root on a coating of slush. 28 Thursday, 35 with an icy mix on Friday, a mixed bag, and then dry on Saturday. Saturday, the drier day of the weekend. Lesson 2 of Weather School. We have 3,000 plus classrooms, 80,000 kids around the state, and we want to say hi to each and every one of them. Here we go. Of the following, the one which plays a major role in the formation of all clouds, Amelia.
I will go with A, Paul, please.
Rising air is absolutely right. Very good. Yes, as air rises, it cools, and it can't hold as much water vapor. That water vapor condenses out into actual visible water droplets, and we get precipitation. Yeah, there we go. So when air rises, it cools. We get clouds and precipitation. As air sinks, it warms up and dries out. Congratulations. You're 2 for 2.
Thank you. Do I get a blanket?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, thanks, Paul. We're going to go to Don now, who has a look at tonight's hometown business beat.
How'd you know that? The Minneapolis company has a new name tonight. It's now called Reliant Energy Minneapolis. The parent company based in Houston, Texas, changed the name as part of its business strategy. It wants to transform the company into a leading national and international energy service company. The Bell Plane company that is taking on Harley-Davidson and making motorcycles has shipped its first one to a dealer. Excelsior Henderson stopped making motorcycles back in 1931, but now they're back. The first 1999 Super X heavyweight cruiser went to a Chicago area dealer.
Us, Michael Jordan. We've now got Excelsior Henderson, so we're going to have a lot of happy people in Chicago.
Excelsior Henderson will slowly start shipping out more bikes and plans to be at full-scale production this spring. And that's it on tonight's Hometown Business Beat. Amelia.
All right, Don. Coming up next in Sports with Mark Rosen, a stunning announcement by Hall of Famer Walter Payton. And a progress report on Final Four star Bobby Jackson. Well, Walter Payton has a connection here to Minnesota, and he spent a lot of time here in Minnesota. Now he's going to spend even more time, but under unfortunate circumstances.
Well, he's hopeful it's an optimistic, at least, viewpoint, coming to the Mayo Clinic to get a liver transplant. His brother, Eddie, played with the Minnesota Vikings, so Walter spent a lot of time with him, and he's also had business interests here as well. But Walter Payton, as you know, appeared invincible during a Hall of Fame career with the Chicago Bears, but tonight he's in search of a healthy liver to keep him alive. His rare liver disease affects just 3 in 100,000 people. Payton is 44 years old. He's being placed on a list to get that transplant, which would take place at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. His doctors said patients in his condition survive an average of 2 years without a transplant. Walter is the NFL's all-time leading rusher with over 16,700 yards. He's beloved in Chicago, and today in Illinois, Payton revealed his illness at an emotional news conference.
To my friends, to the people that really care about me, to the people that really care about me, just continue to pray. And for those who are going to say what they want to say, may God be with you also.
Walter then consoled by his son, Jarrett. In fact, it was at last week's news conference when Jarrett announced his intention to play football for the University of Miami that Walter appeared gaunt, fueling speculation about his condition. Well, the NBA returns Friday night with the Timberwolves at Denver with the addition of Joe Smith, Dean Garrett, Bobby Jackson, and Malik Sealy. This will be a different team than the one that pushed Seattle in the first round of last year's playoffs.
4 guys are going to be in our top 7-8 rotation that really don't know a flip system yet. And Joe, unfortunately, has been hampered by a sprained ankle, so he's a little bit behind. But, you know, we're excited. And like I said, just making the playoffs anymore is not acceptable. We got to be able to advance and go farther.
Bobby Jackson advanced just by being traded to the Wolves. Gopher coach Clem Haskins stopped by the Wolves practice to check up on his Final Four star who lived through a disaster last year in Denver, where he was a starter on one of the worst teams in NBA history. Now he's backing up Stephon Marbury, and he's very happy.
I just look at it, I'm backing up one of the best guards in the league. And I mean, if it was somebody else not of Stephon's qualities, then I'll probably be pissed. But I mean, I'm happy. I'm in a great situation. I'm learning from a lot of things that Steph do and what Coach Flip Sanders want from me and Kevin want from me.
And while Bobby went from Denver to a respectable team, some Denver Broncos could be going the other way. The Broncos turned in their expansion list today. Super Bowl starters Darian Gordon and Neil Smith were on the list of 5 players that they will not protect in the expansion draft for Cleveland. Meanwhile, the San Diego Padres continue to break up their World Series team. They traded Greg Vaughn to the Reds today. Vaughn hit 50 home runs last year, but he's scheduled to make almost $6 million next year. So San Diego traded him to for Reggie Sanders, who'll make $3.7 million. And we expect Rick Aguilera to be traded by the Twins just any day now to unload their remaining payroll, whatever they have left of it.
Our bleep machine also broke, too, isn't it?
Yeah,
I guess it did.
We noticed that during Bobby.
Just ahead on WCCO 4 News, some crowning glory. Meet this year's King, Winter, and Queen of the Northlands. Next at 6:26. Coming up tonight at 10, Northwest Airlines has settled a lawsuit involving a little boy and a horrible attack. A dramatic interview you will see only on 4. Also at 10, Football Hall of Famer Walter Payton is now waiting for the liver transplant that would save his life, and you may need the same thing one day. Those stories plus really, really, really fast food at 10.
Really? A touch of majesty today in the Twin Cities with the coronation of the St. Paul Winter Carnival senior royalty. There she is, the 41st Queen of the Northlands, and this man is ready to reign as King Winter. Other members of the Carnival Court, a Prime Minister, and of course a lady-in-waiting, and we want to congratulate everybody there.
See that? See that?
Yes.
My Burt Parks imitation?
Do it.
There she is.
More of that tonight at 10.
Oh yeah, that'll bring him back.
CBS Tonight.
Greg's been killed, Mrs. Rustin.
When her son died, his best friend was there for her.
It's okay to lean on people.
But no one expected it would ignite a passion.
I'm scared. Me too.
That would turn her family against her.
This is disgusting. Woman in mourning falls into the arms of a younger man.
You've been sleeping with that boy.
Linda Carter.
I don't need anybody's permission to love him.
In a world premiere movie, Family Blessings, CBS Tonight.